What's up, everybody? It's Scotty here with Flat Track Flashback. And well, we've got Sturgis Bike Week in the rearview mirror, and everybody sets their sights on the state of Illinois. We had 3 rounds there in Sturgis, and now we got 3 more rounds coming up in the state of Illinois. That begins this coming weekend with the Peoria TT, with Thunder Valley, and then the doubleheader at the iconic, the historic, the legendary Springfield Mile to cap off the month of August. But before we get ahead of ourselves into Illinois, we're going to look back at the Sturgis TT, the last round of the little mini speed week they had out there at Sturgis Bike Week there in South Dakota. And, you know, this track, I was impressed by the layout of it, to be honest. It looks like it would be a really fun track to ride, but maybe not the most fun track to race. Cool little layout, the little drop into the short track and the little rollers they had in the corners was really neat. Pavement section, very tight and narrow, very difficult to pass. Multiple lines didn't really seem to develop. Maybe if you opened up your entry into 1 and 2 and tried to square under somebody, you could try to make something happen, but you had to really hit your marks. You had to be really precise. It was really technical. And if a rider in front of you didn't really make a mistake, or if you weren't willing to throw it in, going down that little straightaway, coming back into the track and into 1 and 2, it's going to be difficult to make anything happen there passing wise. Before we get into our recap, we got to send our thoughts to Justin Jones, who had a really gnarly get off there in practice. That bike was banged up. We had a fire they had to put out because of the puncture in the gas tank, leaking oil or leaking fuel all over the track. Justin was pretty banged up, but it was nice to see posts on social media from Justin. He'll be okay. Likely going to miss Peoria, but hopefully we get him back at the Springfield Mile, and that First Impressions team can continue to build on that top 10 that they got the second night of short track racing there in Sturgis. Bummed to see that happen with Justin there early in the day and not really get to see what they were capable of on the TT as a whole. Coming into this, like we talked about, the drama, the spiciness that we were having with Briar Bauman and Dallas Daniels, following a little, a few words after the event on Tuesday. And we're curious how this might spill over into the TT, but both riders said they squashed it. And, here we go. We're on for a night of racing, and not too much drama, to be perfectly honest, in the twins class. I gotta be real, like coming off of how exciting the short track racing proved to be. This TT was, quite frankly, a bit of a snoozer, and I hate to say that, but look, throughout the day, Dallas Daniels was really strong. He and Briar faced off with each other in the first heat race. Dallas would get the better of him there. In the second heat race, Declan Bender nailed the start, but Henry Wiles was able to get under him and take the lead, and would be able to check out in that heat race. You would see Briar, Dallas, Henry, and Declan in the Mission Challenge on the night, and it would be Dallas getting the better of Briar in that particular race as well. And as we move into the main event, Daniels gets the whole shot, Wiles gets into second, and looked like he might be able to play a little bit of a spoiler there between the two and help Dallas get a few extra points back. But coming over the jump on the second lap, a little hot getting into that right-hander, opens up the door, and Briar's able to squeak through into second place. And pretty much from there, that was the end of the race. Everybody just kind of went through the motions for the rest of the time they were out there. We didn't see a whole lot of changing going on. Unfortunately, it looked like we were going to see a battle between Davis Fisher and Henry Wiles. Unfortunately for Fisher, he would not make it to the end of the race, only able to complete 17 laps on the night, giving Wiles a pretty smooth run to the checkered flags there. Also unfortunate for Brandon Robinson, who was coming off of his first victory of the season. He too suffers a DNF there at the Sturgis TT. So Fisher and Robinson, who were kind of in that battle for third in points, they have rough nights. Allows Vanderkooi to get a few points back on them, but yeah, I mean, a big win for Dallas to not let Briar continue to squeak out more points in the championship. Kind of a much needed, not necessarily from a mathematical championship standpoint, but probably from a confidence boost standpoint and a sort of get back standpoint for Dallas Daniels. It's so interesting watching these two and hearing from them on the podium. They've got a lot of confidence in the teams, but they don't seem to have a whole lot of confidence in themselves. It's just the most it's a really intriguing aspect of their interviews. And hey, that could just be a couple humble fellas. We'll see what happens with these two riders as they come down to this championship. I feel like coming up, these next couple of rounds, like Peoria almost feels like a must-win for Briar Bauman as we come into Thunder Valley. And if Dallas is able to win Peoria, it's going to put a lot of pressure there on the Rick Ware Racing Harley-Davidson team, because I'm not sure anybody's touching Dallas on those 2 miles in Springfield. I'm sure they can probably give him a run, but with how strong he looked in DuQuoin and if Dallas is able to win Peoria and both Springfields, even if Briar finishes second, Dallas would carry a 5-point lead into the final round of Ozark there. And I don't see any way that Dallas finishes worse than second there, which would only give, even if Breyer win, would only give him back 4 points. So it makes Peoria really pivotal here in this championship fight. Currently, they're only separated by 7 points. The gap, as we know, between first and second in a race is 4 points. And so if Breyer carries a double digits in the Springfield, that could be vital for him in this championship hunt. But if Dallas is able to knock it down to 3 heading into the Springfield doubleheader, that could be massive. Dallas has not beaten Breyer on a twin in AFT competition at Peoria. And, yes, Breyer has wins at Peoria. He has wins at Springfield. Dallas has yet to achieve the top step of the podium at Peoria in the twins class, or in Springfield in the twins class just yet, the Super Twins class at least. And Peoria, it probably feels like a track that Dallas feels like it might owe him one. It's a place that he really loves. It's a place that he got his first career AFT singles win. But he's also seen very scary moments there of some violent crashes on the 450. He did come home with a podium in his first twins attempt there in 2022, but then, suffered a major blow to the championship when he was running well there in 2023. But that crash in 3 and 4, or however you want to, call those corners after the right-hander, that knocked him, out of contention for a podium there, and he had to come back through the field for 5th. We all know about the injury last year, forcing him to miss this round. So Peoria has not been the most kind to Dallas during his entire AFT career. So we'll see if that all flips around. And, there's a couple of riders who could really get up there and mix it up and play spoiler on the weekend. Max Whale, got a couple of singles victories there. He's, looked really strong the opening night of Sturgis on the short track in that triple challenge format on the Royal Enfield. I think Max and also the returning Bronson Bauman could really see an opportunity here to hop on the podium for the first time on the year. As we look at that battle for third in points with Brandon Robinson and Vanderkoy and Fisher, just honestly, I don't really know what to expect out of any of them coming into Peoria. Last year was Brandon's first top 5 at that track, and hopefully they'll be able to bounce back from some mechanical woes that they saw there in Lucas Oil, and then obviously the struggles that they had there in the Sturgis TT. And Vanderkoy and Fisher, there's I just feel like a lot of unknowns there. If Henry Wiles comes back, Henry was able to, put it back on the box there again in Sturgis. And of the, few rounds that he's contested this year, he's found himself inside the top 5 in 3 of them, on the box on 2 of them. The one DNF there in Sonoy is the only real, I guess, mark on his record as far as, how he's been able to perform this year in his limited schedule. So, right now, not pre-entered as of the time of recording this. We're recording this on Monday night. August 11th, the event being Saturday the 16th. So we'll see if Henry ends up showing up, and that is his kingdom. He is King Henry. With all the races that he scored victories there, he can't ever count him out. Although it feels like this is going to be another chapter in the Daniels Bauman 1-2 slugfest for that championship. So we'll see what those 2 riders bring to the Peoria TT. Again, I don't really have a whole lot else to talk about with the Sturgis TT when it comes to the twins class. So we just kind of, we look at the championship points. Like we said, it's Bauman with that 7-point lead over Dallas Daniels. Brandon Robinson with his second DNF on the year was still a very long shot to be a championship factor here, but now sitting almost 80 points back, is going to have to fend off Davis Fisher and Jared Vanderkoy over these next few weeks in that fight for third in the championship. Still holding a comfortable 16-point edge over Fisher, and then 22 back to Jared Vanderkoy. Behind them, not much shuffling in the points, but a couple of things tighten up there in Sturgis. Trent Lowe sits 6th. He's got a 1-point advantage over James Ott. Then a 7 back to Dan Bromley. 12 back of Trent is Max Whale in 9th. And Logan McGrain still holds on to that 10th place spot in the standings. But Declan Bender with that 6th place result at the Sturgis TT, he's knocking on the door. He and Henry Wiles could sneak up into the top 10. I don't know if Henry's going to plan on running the rest of the year, but hopefully Declan's got a full schedule in him. And I can definitely see him, as we mentioned, after those few performances, in Lima and in DuQuoin on that OTB Racing Yamaha, felt like Declan could very well factor into the top 10 in points, even with a limited schedule on the year. And those miles in Springfield and DuQuoin have to be a great opportunity for Declan to put together another great couple of rounds there. The podium that he achieved at DuQuoin, the heat race victory he got there, those Yamahas looking so good at the DuQuoin mile, and we'll see how they behave there in Springfield. But first, they got to get through Thunder Valley and get through the Peoria TT, and that's next on the schedule. And this title fight just continues to keep us hooked. And we watch everything develop. Back at the amateur day, we've heard that Dallas Daniels was the class of the field, and Breyer didn't have anything from him at that particular day. But we'll see if things have changed when they come into the AFT round, when championship points are on the line for this series. And man, I'm just really looking forward to what the final quarter of the season brings us. A TT 2 miles and a short track. Peoria just does. It feels like it carries a lot of weight here in this championship fight. And man, just excited to see what all takes place there in Thunder Valley coming up. We'll obviously get to talk about that once the weekend is over with. Shifting gears over to the singles class, it was cool to see some new names there atop the charts early in the day. Jared Lowe really strong in qualifying, and Evan Kelleher getting a heat race victory. But unfortunately, neither one of those riders would end up factoring into sort of the proceedings later in the night for a victory. Kelleher, unfortunately, after that heat race victory, would be involved in a crash on the opening lap. Jared Lowe would never really factor into that heat race. He fell back a good bit there and was still able to salvage a top 10 on the night, but just not able to really get that whole night show together after such a strong qualifying effort. But it's still cool to see a lot of these riders, making waves in the sport and making an impact there and getting new names atop the charts. It was cool to see Walker Porter. We didn't even get to talk about it, but Walker set quick time there on Triple Challenge Day at the Sturgis Short Track. So cool to see little gains there from him as he continues through his rookie season. Unfortunately for Walker, the TT did not treat him as kindly, missing out on the main event that night. But this kid still has a very bright future, and I feel like the Springfield Mile and Lake Ozark especially could be very promising performances for the number 100 here in his rookie campaign. But our title combatants, they would end up getting toward the front as they always do, and Chase and Tom have just sort of weathered the storm of early rivals throughout the year and have really become the two to keep an eye on. The three-headed monster from last year becomes just the two-headed hydra of Sadoff and Drain. They continue to write another chapter in their epic rivalry for this championship. And while they were toward the front, it would be Sadoff who really seemed to have the field covered on the night. He wasn't quick time, but he won his heat race, and he got the whole shot in the main event, and that was pretty much all we wrote. Sadoff gets the lead. He's chased by Aiden Roos-Evans all the way home, and Tom Drain gets third. It's very similar to their heat race. And before we dive into any of that, let's give a huge congratulations to Aiden Roos-Evans for his first AFT podium. A rider that has been right there in the mix for that sort of battle for fourth in the championship. He showed a lot of potential there in Sonoy with that Dash for Cash victory, and then was right up there running for a podium spot in the main event before giving way to Evan Renshaw later in that race. But Roos-Evans really hounded Chase all the way to the finish in both the heat race and the main event. Just, again, a tough place to get around, and Chase was hitting his marks and put together a really strong race, able to pick up 2 victories during Sturgis Bike Week and a second place during the other race, leading laps every single night. Very promising for Sadoff to get a little bit of help there from fellow Illinois rider Roos-Evans and get a few points back there on Drain. Behind them, though, was quite the battle for fourth. You had riders Braden Fanders, Jared Lowe, Cage Tadman, Taryn Santero, Dalton Gauthier, Trevor Bruner, all mixing it up back there, fighting for 4th through 9th. And it looked like Santero might be able to get another top 5 there and get by Fanders, but a mistake late would knock Santero back to the tail end of that group. And Braden Fanders gets his best result on the year, holds on for a 4th place finish. Gauthier gets back in the top 5. Great run for Dalton there. Cool to see him back on the track as well, pulling double duty with the adventure trackers. Again, not a whole lot to talk about there. Like the racing was fine. I mean, it just was such a difficult track to pass on. And, it felt like maybe the crowd dwindled there, maybe a little bit oversaturation, having the 3 races there in the same weekend. The crowd was pretty good there Monday and Tuesday night. Not a big facility. Not as many seemed to turn out for the TT. Maybe just other events going on in Sturgis pulled people away. We'll see if the TT is something that they keep around for the future. It was, while it wasn't my favorite event last year, it was cool to see everybody lining the streets of Sturgis for the street race there. That event seems like it's not going to happen again. So maybe this deal with Jackpine Gypsies could be something that is what they're looking to build moving forward. Cool layout, just have to find ways to make it more racy and have more passing opportunities for the riders that can test out there. Again, fun track. It looks like it'd be a great track to ride and have a good time out at. But as far as like trying to race, if you don't get the whole shot, you're in trouble. And looking at the points now, Drain able to keep a 16-point advantage over Sadoff. They've really checked out on Trevor Bruner, who was 4th, 5th, and 6th on the weekend. It looked like it could have been an opportunity for Trevor to really continue to build on the momentum he built at Lucas Oil, but just a bit of a letdown for Bruner there. And he's sort of at this point now where he's out of the championship hunt, doesn't really have anything to lose, and he can just go send it for victories at the next few rounds. But behind them, that battle for 4th continues to be exciting. Roos-Evans propels himself past Santero, now sits 4th, has 2 points over Taryn there. Cage Tadman sits sixth, just 10 points behind Roos Evans, and Braden Fanders only 12 points behind Roos Evans. They're in seventh, and don't count out Jared Lowe. He sits just a 23-point gap back of Aiden Roos Evans in the points. Jared, a big fan of Peoria. We'll see how he performs there and can maybe continue to put a full day together. I expect him to be pretty quick in qualifying. And Peoria, a track that Terrence Santero was in the dash-in last year, started on the front row, was quick. Looked like he might be in contention for his first podium, which would later come in Sturgis last year. So Terrence's going to be somebody to keep an eye on as well. Behind them, the first impressions riders of Evan Renshaw and Chad Coase bring up the field. Chad put together a great second night on the short track, but other than that, it was a rough weekend for the first impressions riders outside the top 10 every single time. In fact, for Chad, he would get that fourth place finish, but then 13th and 15th. And then for Evan Renshaw, a brutal week in Sturgis, 17th, 15th, 16th. Now, speaking of Evan Renshaw and the first impressions team, there appears to be some developments on that front as we head into Peoria. Renshaw, as we've seen the last few rounds, has really struggled, especially after having a decent start to the year. He got comboed with Andrew Butler, and we felt like that could be a really good dream pairing for those two and help Renshaw sort of elevate to that next level this year. And it just really hasn't come to fruition. They've had several top fives. They were in the top 10 every race they started, but a crash out in Chico, and then these last four rounds, really ever since Lucas Oil, it's been a disaster for that pair. And so looking into Peoria's entry list right now, there's first impressions, has riders entered, but one of them is not Evan Renshaw. In fact, at the time of recording this, Renshaw is not pre-entered. The rider with first impressions help, in addition to Chad Coase, is the 228 of Cage Tadman. And Cage has been under that Roof Systems Jerry Stinchfield banner throughout the year, is undoubtedly the rookie of the year with 2 wins, several podiums, been in the top 10 a bunch of times, only a couple of bad results for Cage on the year. He's been, the story of the class has really kind of taken some of the shine away from our championship contenders with just how impressive he's burst onto the scene. And this will be, a big shakeup for Cage. He's going to be joining a new team on a new bike. So, as far as Peoria expectations go, we'll temper them quite a bit. But this could be a great opportunity for that first impressions team to really, kickstart the back end of their year and finish strong. Obviously we hope everything is okay with Evan Renshaw and everything inside that 65 camp. We wish him all the best, and hopefully it's nothing too serious, and that we'll get to see him back at the racetrack in the not too distant future. But as we shake things up, I don't know if Evan's going to be racing Peoria or anything the rest of the year. It appears that Cage will be filling in this weekend in Peoria, and we'll see how far down the road that goes. Maybe there's an announcement coming out from the team any second now. In fact, there might be one by the time this video comes out. So, these guys could be factors for sure in these upcoming races. I'm not sure that either of them will be a favorite to win Peoria necessarily, but we saw how strong Chad Coase was at the Springfield Mile last year during that marathon of a day, picking up 2 podiums and being in that front pack the whole time. And Lake Ozark is a track that I feel like, given Cage's dominance on short tracks and those types of facilities throughout the year, Lake Ozark is a place that I think he could really, really shine at, regardless of what bike he's on. So silly season already underway, and I guess it's something we need to keep an eye on and start focusing on as we enter the end of this year. Coming into Peoria, Chase is going to be looking to continue to cut into Tom's lead. He's got to get as many points back as he can. Tom, we know, is going to be really tough at Springfield, won both races last year during that marathon of a day that they ran. And we've got the triple challenge in Springfield as well. But Chase is definitely going to be looking to repeat what he did last year with another win at Peoria. A very exciting battle last year with Cody Kopp. The two of them really pulled away from Drain and settled amongst themselves. So Chase going to be looking to repeat, and Tom going to be looking to break through and get his first victory at Peoria. He's been good. He's been on the podium both times, second and third in his runs there, but still is yet to pick up that victory there in Thunder Valley. And we talked about Trevor Bruner, really nothing to lose. The last time he rode a single at Peoria in AFT competition, he won in 2023 there aboard the Estenson bike. So he's going to be somebody to keep an eye on. But there's a real spoiler that's looking to show up, and he's unbeaten in AFT competition in 2025, and that's Cody Kopp. And Cody's looking for that sort of final notch in the cap, looking to fill out what I would consider the big 4 racetracks. He's won in Daytona, he's won in Lima, he's won in Springfield, but he's yet to pick up that Peoria TT victory. And so he's coming back to compete in the singles class, bringing the number 1 plate back to the grid. And Cody's going to be a force when he shows up there in Thunder Valley. Even though he didn't get the better of Sadoff last year, he led laps, was up toward the front, and looking for a little redemption off of that performance. So it'll be fun to watch those guys and more tear it up there in Thunder Valley. And, can the likes of Jared Lowe and Evan Kelleher put together another strong performance? How's Roos Evans going to keep his momentum going from that first podium. You know, we mentioned Santero could be a factor in that as well. Also on the docket was the circus show that is the Adventure Trackers. They were in Sturgis all week, and we got to see those big, heavy, you know, things rolling around the short track and rolling around the TT there. And this is not my favorite class. I think it looks kind of ridiculous. I feel like we should be playing clown music while they're racing. But for what it's worth, there's some incredible personalities and incredibly skilled riders who are making this class worth the attention and definitely bringing intrigue to it. Jesse Janish and Dan Bromley split victories the 2 days on the short track, and then coming into the TT, it set up their rubber match, and they were 1-2 out front early in the race. Bromley leading with Janish behind him, following a fall by Henry Wiles on the opening lap, which also collected Hunter Bauer. And poor Hunter, man, he was also collected in that singles crash on the opening lap with Evan Kelleher, as well as the Adventure Tracker class. Just not a great night on the TT for Bauer. So with Wiles having to start at the back, it left Bromley and Janish getting out front to settle it amongst themselves. And Janish would lose the little back seat pad and lay it down going into 1 and 2, and that pretty much gave the victory to Bromley, who had a very comfortable advantage over a fun battle for second behind him. Behind him, you had Austin Luzak, Henry Wiles, Danny Eslick all duking it out there for those final couple spots on the podium. Eslick and Wiles would end up getting the better of Luzak, who would be on the box there Tuesday at the short track. And with that, Bromley gets the victory over Eslick and Wiles, and Bromley's going to carry a 14-point advantage coming into Peoria over Jesse Janish. And that just means Bromley's got to finish 8th or better. And right now, he's not pre-entered, but I would imagine he's going to show up and run the Adventure Tracker and be the favorite to win this little mini championship that they've got going on. A lot of fun personalities in the class. We mentioned Dalton Gauthier pulling double duty. He was teamed up on those triumphs with Brandon Posh, and we talked about Wiles was in it. Bromley, Janish, Luzak, Eslick, just to name a few. And it was funny with these riders, blaring on the horns there as they were riding around and competing in these races. So it adds a little bit of comedy to it, and it does draw attention. Again, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not a huge fan of it, but look, they're definitely bringing in the personalities, and they're keeping us intrigued from at least that standpoint. So when they head to Peoria, it's going to be interesting. A much faster racetrack, bigger jump, and these are heavy, heavy bikes. So we'll see what happens when everybody takes to the skies on these Adventure Trackers at Thunder Valley. Riders who have excelled outside of AFT, maybe it's Moto America, maybe it's local racing. Hey, we got to give them a huge congratulations as well. How about JD Beach picking up a Stock 1000 victory there at VIR, having to navigate just crazy lap traffic. I know that feels like forever ago, back in a couple weekends ago, but we never got to even chat about it. And also that weekend, the Talent Cup series was back in action, and we just had a chaotic first race there. Bodie Page with the save of the season, it seemed like, for Moto America, and then Cody Kopp with some off-track excursions in that class as well. A lot of chaos happening, and unfortunately, we saw Carson King take a really nasty tumble getting into the back of Julian Correa on the first race, and Bodie Page would go down as well. And Alessandro DiMario looked like he was going to walk away with that first race, but then he had a broken shift linkage and prevented him from changing gears. Or the commentator said that they thought he was stuck in about 4th gear, and so he was getting just swallowed up on the straightaways. And Hank Vosberg closed the gap and got around and picked up the victory. And then Ella Dreyer, Sam Drain, Cody Kopp were able to get by him late in the race as well, and sort of had a fight for the podium amongst themselves that saw Sam Drain prevail there over Ella Dreyer and Cody Kopp getting so close to what should have been a second podium, but alas, the results still have Cody podiumless on the year. But they did change that rule after the fact, so I guess there is some justice there. Unfortunate for Cody, though. A lot of championships in Moto America have tight battles coming down to the wire. Superbike, Super Sport, that Stock 1000 class, JD's closing in, running second in points, just 10 adrift, but a lot to keep an eye on there in Moto America. DiMario was able to bounce back in that Talent Cup on the second day and get a victory. He's kind of checked out in that. It's got a 44-point gap over Sam Drain, but then Hank Vosberg and Bodie Page are not that far behind. Those 3 riders separated by just 22 points there in Talent Cup. On the Flat Track Canada front, Liam Caskey's been putting together an incredible year. A super strong run for him in the championship, really dominating the Open Expert class. And we've also seen the likes of Loic Nadeau and Brandon Seguin pick up wins recently. And man, it just looks like Liam Caskey's on his way to his first Open Expert championship there in Canada, putting together an awesome ride. And really appreciate the articles that Flat Track Canada puts out to sort of, get an update and get get some coverage of their events. Appreciate the post-race articles, appreciate the Corey Nixon photography that they share. Fun little series to keep an eye on, and they've just crammed their season, back-to-back weekends. The next race in Weekend, which will end their little stretch of 4 races in a row, and then they take about a month off before Georgian Downs, which unfortunately is the same weekend as the AFT season finale. There is another race, TBD, on the Flat Track Canada schedule that they have for September 27th. We'll see if that date does get filled. Up at Square Deal Riders, we had the Aaron Kramer Memorial Short Track Race, and Square Deal, once again, north of 260 riders entered throughout all the classes. A loaded expert class that saw Adam Budman Wood come out victorious over Logan Eisenhart and Craig Estelle in the Aaron Kramer Memorial 18-lap Open Expert main event. Kind of cool to see Budman get to sign his name on that memorial checkered flag right under Pops Ron Wood, who won that race back in 2006. And Budman, in the end, had a pretty solid advantage over the rest of the field and a pretty comfortable race victory margin. But early on, it looked like Eisenhart was going to give him a major challenge for that victory. Unfortunately for Eisenhart, a big mistake in 1 and 2, nearly going over the handlebars, really separated he and Craig Estelle from Budman and allowed Budman to come home victorious there at Square Deal. So fun watching all this races on F3 Photos and Videos and Frank's YouTube channel and get to watch all this racing from Square Deal. What an epic racetrack that is. And the second expert feature of the night, the 450 expert class, would see Eisenhart get a little bit of redemption there on the night. But man, what an exciting first couple of laps of this race. They were 4 wide. It was Eisenhart, Budman, Lowell Carson, and Ryan Wells. 4 wide coming off of turn 4 to complete lap 1 as they navigated into lap 2. Coming off of turn 4 once again, 3 wide. Carson, Eisenhart, Budman, 3 wide coming off of turn 4. And then a lap later going into 3 and 4. Everything just happening down on that end of the racetrack early on. Looked like Eisenhart and Carson were leaning on each other going through 3 and 4. It saw Eisenhart get the better of that. Budman would come through and follow him home in second place. Eisenhart able to take the victory there in the 450 expert class at Square Deal on the weekend. They've got one more race to go, the Lee Thomas Cup, that's been rescheduled. It was supposed to take place earlier in the year. Now it's set to take place September 6th, which is between Springfield and Lake Ozark. So if anybody wants to head back to New York and get an epic short track under their belt before heading to the Clay there in Missouri, man, I'd highly recommend everybody load up there and head out to Square Deal. You could go from Springfield to Square Deal to Lake Ozark to Nisa, South Carolina for the Corey Texter Promotions event. Now, granted, that's a lot of traveling, and I'm just getting to say this as a fan to be excited about and not have to foot any of the bills for it. But, I mean, if you're able to make all 4 of those happen, that's a pretty epic month of racing. Now, something many of you may not care about, but I personally love, and that is Speedway Grand Prix racing. And something happened in Latvia that we haven't seen since 2021. And that was a rider. Well, you know what? Let me not spoil it just yet. Let's build to it. The weather there on that day was insane. A lot of rain, a lot of standing water on the bottom of the track. Program got super delayed. Actually trying to watch live on Racer TV, it got cut out. And so I had to wait a little bit to watch the YouTube highlights and whatnot to catch back up on all the racing. But man, Smarslick gave us several treats throughout his heat racing. Just epic riding. This guy is an animal on a speedway bike, and there's a reason he's a multi-time world champion, and by the end of his career may go down as the winningest rider, may go down as the GOAT of Speedway Grand Prix by the time it's all said and done. But he is locked in a major title fight with Brady Kurtz, as we've covered. Now, Smarslick and Andrei Lebedevs of Latvia were the top 2 qualifiers in heat race, top 2 points earners, so they locked directly into the final. Brady Kurtz and Freddie Lindgren, who are sitting second and third in championship points, they needed big-time rides in their final heat race just to even make it to the LCQ after struggling early in their heat race runs. They were able to come through on those last heats. They get into the LCQ, and they make the most of those opportunities, with Kurtz and Lindgren winning their respective LCQs and getting to the final to join Smarslick and Lebedevs. Now, in the final, Smarslick lines up on that outside gate, looking to get a jump and rail the outside, as he is so good at it. Had he got to the front, he could have been a problem. I say had he, could have been. That's because on the start, it was Brady Kurtz who got the lead, and Lindgren sort of slid up the track, got in front of Smarslick, really sapped his momentum. He had to check up, and that put Smarslick at the back of the pack. It left Kurtz out front, Lindgren in second, Lebedevs in third. Another mistake later by Smarslick, and this was pretty easy for Kurtz to walk away with. And Kurtz has now won 3 races in a row, something that we haven't seen since 2021, with Smarslick and Artem Laguda, his title rival at the time, did just that. Laguda winning 3 races late in the campaign and would end up winning that championship by just 3 points over Smarslick in 2021. Now, we got a couple races left. Could this be one of those moments where this is Kurtz just on an absolute rampage, and can the rookie take the championship from just the established multi-time champions. In Smarslick, we've got a lot to look forward to. Only 3 points separate them. They've left the field behind. It is going to be between those guys as we head into the final 2 rounds of the Speedway Grand Prix season, and I can't wait to watch that all unfold. We got another race at the end of August, and then mid-September, man. Middle of September is going to be a lot. We've got AFT coming to an end, Speedway GP coming to an end. We got the CTR Flat Track Series coming to an end. There is a lot of stuff happening in the sport of dirt oval motorcycle racing to keep an eye on that time of year, and man, we're jazzed up for it. And yeah, there's super motocross playoffs going on, and I guess that's kind of a big deal for some of us too, right? Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for checking out the video. Appreciate all your support on the channel. It means the world. We wouldn't be doing this without you guys watching, and it means a lot just to see the engagement, to hear your feedback, and yeah, let's comment down below if you made it this far. Who are you rooting for this championships? Who do you want to see win the singles class? What are your Peoria predictions? Who are you rooting for in the twins class? And those Peoria predictions. How do you see this title fight shaking out? If you're a Speedway fan, or if there's other races you want highlighted, there's also the event going on in Greenville, Ohio here, the weekend between Peoria and Springfield. How we doing, Roger? That helping out with that. So if you're able to make that event, please support that particular race. Man, you could, I guess you can go Peoria, Greenville, Springfield, Square Deal, Lake Ozark, Nices, and just go all over the country and have a crazy road trip if the funds are available and you're able to do so. But a lot of facilities available for some incredible racing here in this next 6 weeks. So support these local tracks, support the American Flat Track Series. And thank you so much for just supporting the sport. We are so grateful for all the riders who sacrificed so much to bring us this incredible form of motorcycle racing. So thankful to all you fans, all you sponsors, everybody that's part of the teams that make this stuff happen and keep those bikes on the track. You guys keep being heroes for us, and I'm just so excited that we have this sport in our lives and get to follow along with it week in and week out. And this end of the season, everything's sort of crunched together so the storylines don't get stale. Let's talk about this. Let's hype this stuff up. Let's not let these title fights go by the wayside. We got a lot to still unpack with these championships. And please support those who are supporting this sport. Please support those podcasts, those YouTube channels, the riders on their social channels, the sponsors. You can get products from them. It means the world. And please support your local tracks and the national tracks as well. That's going to do it for this week. We'll get back to you once Peoria is wrapped up and see how everything shakes out. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for supporting this channel. And we will talk to you very soon. Be a decent human, and we love you so much.